What's up, guys? Welcome to the Stash Free Sports channel. Let's get right into it. You see the thumbnail, guys. I have a proposed trade for you guys. No one's getting fleeced. I think this is a super fair trade, and I think it makes sense and very realistic. I have the Steelers trading George Pickens straight up for the Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs straight up. Now, let's get into why, guys. So, when the move first happened, DK going to the Steelers, that crazy trade that came out of nowhere. I came up here immediately, did a full length video saying I don't like it. I don't like it. The personalities on the field, the play styles, they have similar weaknesses. They're the same style receiver, kind of, sort of. So that's my first reaction. 24 hours later, still don't like it. My mind won't change on that. And I'm trying to I tried to scavenge around to see, man, what team makes sense for George Pickens? What team needs a underused, full of potential type of guy like Pickens, where he can kind of explode and be a true number one with a good quarterback? I'm looking. I'm like, oh man, the Green Bay Packers. They struck out on all their options. They didn't bring back Devontae Adams. No Garrett Wilson trade. No Tariq Hill trade like I predicted early on this past offseason. This offseason currently. I thought Tariq Hill, if he wanted out, the Packers made sense. Replace him with Christian Watson's. So I'm like, man, there's a bunch of good guys on that roster, but one guy makes the most sense to give back to Pittsburgh, Romeo Doubs. Both guys, Pickens and Doubs, both really, yeah, both. They both had their moments of uh, not being team players. As we saw last year, Doubs got benched for a game for what I think a week or two of missing practice or just wilding out. He wanted more. He wanted the ball more. He didn't feel like he was being used, and I do agree. He's a very good receiver. Who at the time, Reed is our number one. But I still think Doubs is better. I'm a big Doubs fan. I don't think Doubs is a number one wide receiver, but on that team, I do think Doubs is the best option. But Reed took over. It just felt like early on this past season, Doubs couldn't find the ball. And I noticed that as well, but Doubs handled it wrong. Clearly, he got set down for a game or two, but came back pretty strong. But Dobbs is on last year of his contract. George Pickens is on the last year of his contract. This makes so much sense. You give Pickens to the Packers. He gives them their true number one wide receiver. He's above Reed. He's above Wicks. He's above all those guys by talent, by everything. He is the best receiver on that team by far if you give Pickens to the Packers. Then you go to Dobbs. He is in his role a true number two, a very, very low end number one, or a high end number two, in my opinion. I like Dobbs a lot. And he's a guy who can offset Romeo. Romeo Doubs is a guy who can offset a guy like DK Metcalf, who's in that George Pickens role, purely a deep threat, purely an athlete, can run a couple of simple routes, but nothing too crazy. He's really just a real deep threat. A physical freak on the outside. Mike can break a slant or two here or there. Mike can break a couple plays here and there as far like the shorter routes. But he's really mainly a deep threat guy. And then you have Dobbs who can do it all. He can great route runner, pretty good hands, can beat you short, beat you intermediate, beat you deep. He can do it all. And I think he's the perfect guy to pair with DK Metcalf. Now, I know they were floating around DK to the Packers for Dobbs or Wicks, and I think this makes sense here. Like I said, Pickens is he's not a mini DK. They're not the same type all the way, but they're similar. So this makes sense as well. The Steelers trade Pickens for Dobbs, and it makes sense for both sides. No one's getting fleeced. No one's getting scammed. There's no winner. There's no losers. I think it's a win-win in my opinion. J Love gets a huge target. And look, I said this in my last video I mentioned earlier on the DK trade. I think Pickens is a true receiver one. I think he has one of the best hands, one of the best skill sets in the NFL by far. He contorts his body so crazy. He makes spectacular catches. He just need a good quarterback, a great quarterback, and he will be top of the line with, maybe not with exactly Jamar and Justin, but he's going to be in that next tier, right? And he's kind of already there without the quarterback. So that made me think maybe with Justin, maybe with a good quarterback like J Love, he can get to the Justin and Jamar type of talk. You never know until we see it, but I think it is possible. J Love has not had no one like that on that roster. Watson is not that. He could be kind of sort of a speedster version of Pickens, but he can't stay healthy. Dobbs isn't that. Wicks isn't that. Reed isn't that. The tight ends aren't that. Pickens is a different monster. And as I said with the Steelers, Metcalf can give you Pickens like production, Pickens like field, but you don't have a JSN or a Tyler Lockett on that team to pair and make Metcalf look even more dangerous. Because Metcalf by himself, he's an athlete. He's a great to look at, body wise and with pads and without pads. But on the field, you by himself, if he's the main guy, you can limit him. But with a JSN, with a Tyler Lockett type of guy, it makes him even more dangerous. And Romeo Doubs can punish you also. Romeo Doubs can beat you one-on-one also. You can't leave him one-on-one too much because he's a dog too. And he, like I say, to me, very, very, very low end number one, a nice high end number two style receiver. And if you put him on an island one-on-one with your number two corner, you're going to have problems. You will have problems. So I think Dobbs and Metcalf make a lot more sense than Pickens and Metcalf does. But I think Pickens make a lot more sense with Jordan Love and all the surrounding cast, Reed, Wicks, Josh Jacobs, all those guys, than you do with Dobbs and the other surrounding cast. Because Dobbs and the other surrounding cast, they're all the same. They're all the same level. As I said, I think Dobbs could be a very low end one. I don't think Reed can be that. I don't think Wicks can be that. I think they're high end three, low end two style receivers or level receivers. I think Dobbs is the only one who can really reach that number one potential. No, let's go to the worst team in the league, the Browns or something, the Browns Titans. I think if you give them Dobbs with a good quarterback, I think Dobbs will look like a star for that sorry team. But give him a true number one, and then you make him number two, then he'll settle in and be a very good number two option there. So that's what I mean by level two, level three. Wicks and Reed to me are threes that can be twos. Dobbs is a two that can be a low end one. So that's it for video, guys. Straight up trade to me makes sense. I'm not mad if throwing the pick from the Packers to the Steelers, or they maybe swap picks, because you have to pay both guys. Both guys on the last year of their contract. You have to pay both guys long term. But like I said, Pickens is thought to be the better guy, in which he is in my opinion. So if you want to give, Dobbs in the fifth for Pickens and just straight up, that's not bad. I wouldn't mind that. Or swapping fifths, or a fifth and a third, or a fifth and a fourth, something like that, just to say you got some value back for the better player, giving up the better player in Pickens. I wouldn't mind that. But both guys need to be paid. Both guys have been disgruntled at times because of their usage or their quarterback play or whatever. And I think this could solve that. J Love will target Pickens 100%. And then whoever the quarterback will be for the Steelers now or for the future, you have two weapons that give you spots all around the field. DK can beat you deep, and then Dobbs can beat you everywhere. And that's something that, play off each other very well. But that's it for video, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys next time.